No,
I still don't have that.
I think that's the organizers who did that.
Ah,
Oh, I
bingo.
have it.
If they can hear us.
Thank you, organizers. I'm going to go back on mute.
So can I just check? It's just that I have a few different. So is every day is a new? Every day is a lot, like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Did I get that? Every day is different. Every day you're going to be teaching something and doing something different. Is that right? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? No.
Oh, are you talking to me or?
I'm trying to ask a question. Is this is happening like for 4 days? Did I get it? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday? This group is happening for 4 days? You can't hear me? No?
That's my understanding.
Okay, this group is happening for 4 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, and every day is different? Every day
Yes,
something different?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and they're all recorded, so if you missed one, you could see it at another time?
Yes.
They will send it out at the end, they said. You should have got a information about what to expect from day to day. And yes, it's 4 days. Yes, they'll record it.
Okay, okay. And so would you say the recording comes at the end, or it comes while it's during the course of the 4 days? What? I'm sorry?
Would like to start with, we'll let you know, and we would like to mute everyone right now. So
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your help, Jean. Yes, so this is being recorded. It's being recorded right now, and it will be made available to you after the course is over. We just don't have the capacity to process the videos in time. And yeah, you will be given unlisted YouTube links. So it will be something that is private on YouTube.
So if you don't want to be recorded, there is an easy possibility. You can stop your video to not be recorded. If you want, you can do that. Otherwise, we would very much recommend everyone to be on camera, because to our visibility to each other is one of the main features that we are working with. So if you don't mind, we very much would recommend to stay on camera.
And to be here together. But so welcome. Welcome. It's wonderful to see you. I'm Elizabeth Diebold.
My name is Thomas Steininger.
And this is Creating Online Aliveness. And I think by the end of today, you will have a sense of what it is that we mean by that. So we're just to start with, this is just, first, of course, this is not, we've been saying this is not about how to use Zoom and the technical stuff. It's more about the consciousness, the awareness, the potentiality of conscious awareness in this space. But we want to go through some basic things so that everybody knows how to work the screen that you're sitting in front of. So the first thing is that in the upper right corner of your screen, there will be something that says speaker view or gallery view. Gallery view means this amazing quilt of human faces.
And if you see, we put us just on a spotlight view so that you can see us. If I cancel the spotlight view, you can now choose on the upper right to either see the speaker or to see the whole gallery of all of us. So we would recommend most of the time to use the gallery view to just support to seeing all of us. Of course, we cannot see all of us. There's only 25 people we can see on one screen. We are 120 people right now. So sometimes it's also good to just go back and forth between the screens. On a PC, there's on the right side, on the left side, in the middle of the screen, an arrow where you can click from one screen to the next screen, and can see that there are right now 5 screens with people. So you can have a look and see each other, which I very much would recommend to do, just also to get a sense of the people you're with.
Yeah, of who we're all with. And you can also, of course, exit full screen or have it full screen. We recommend that it be full screen so that you have everyone is as big as possible. And then at the bottom left of your screen, there's the mute for the microphone. And okay, someone is saying that they can't hear.
I guess most of you can hear us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you cannot hear it, it's probably a problem on your own audio settings. So unfortunately, it's difficult for us to help you on our side here.
You could try rebooting your computer.
Or if you have a second device, maybe a mobile phone, you also can connect with your mobile phone to this.
To the audio.
Yeah.
And then there's a little camera that says stop video, and if there's a line through it, it means that you're not able to be seen, that you are off camera. And then there is a participants. You can see a little participants icon. If you click that, you will get a list on the right side of all of the participants, and it will also give you the option to raise your hand.
The little icons underneath the list, which says yes, no, go slower, go faster, and one is raise hand. This is one of the ways that when we start our conversation, where you can raise your hand and we can see that you want to speak. So this is one way where you can make yourself visible, that you want to participate in the conversation.
And then you can see that there's a chat function, and we already have some people chatting. We recommend that for the most part, unless you're having trouble and need to holler for help, that we not use the chat in order to be able to stay actually present with each other and to be really here with each other. We, as your facilitators, find that when there's a chat stream going, our attention is divided between that and everyone, and that changes the experience. So we recommend that we be here, and unless you need to, try not to use the chat.
Because also to be aware, when you do a chat to everyone, it's a chat to 122 people right now. And it really interferes with the flow of the conversation when we do that, when too many people do that. So we recommend to be very light on doing the chat.
Yeah. And I think there will be a lot of opportunity to engage. So you will have more direct ways of engaging today. And I think that's pretty much it. We will be using breakout groups. As we said, we're recording this so that you can get it afterwards. It will probably come in about a week after we're done. And so you can't review after each day, unfortunately, but things will carry from one day to the next. I think you'll be in the flow soon. So we wanted to do this program, and we did it once before at the end of April, beginning of May, because when the social distancing began, we realized that so many of the people that we know were psychotherapists, counselors, consultants, and spiritual leaders, that all of a sudden your livelihood just sort of disappeared, because the intimate contact that you need to have with another person in order to do your work was gone. and you were forced to be mediating your work through a space like this, through Zoom or through another form of video technology. And we've been working for a very long time on Zoom, and before that with other forms of technology, because we were doing work in a global context, and realized that we had something that we could to share, so that you could create deep and living connections with other human beings using technology. And that this could not only allow you to get through this period, this crisis moment, but also expands your work to be able to reach across regions and areas and across the world in ways that you may not have had before.
And also, you probably have noticed that with the COVID crisis and the social distancing, many people discovered Zoom and other online programs. And we are working with this since quite some years, but all of a sudden there's a whole explosion of participation on online meetings. And our assumption, this is part of the crisis, but it won't go away. People have recognized this is a way to meet that is a new possibility that has its disadvantages, but also has its advantages. I mean, one of the advantages is very obvious. It's very easy to meet. Here we are. We did not need to travel anywhere. We did not have to pay anything to go somewhere, and we can meet 120 people on a global scale. That's a pretty awesome new way of people coming together. But at the same time, of course, online is not the same like offline, and there are limitations on meeting this way. For example, we are not in the same physical space. We are sitting in the front of a computer, and it's not as easy to make contact out of the very obvious reasons. And that's part what we really try to work here together. Much more is possible than one thinks in the first glance how we can connect online. One of the most direct effects that we can create is to realize that this, what we are having right now, is not a virtual meeting. It's not a virtual meeting. And what I mean with this is very simple fact. I'm not virtual, I'm real. You are not virtual, you are real. Everyone here is not virtual, we are all real, and we are really meeting right now. And I don't say this lightly, because just to really let this sink in, that I'm real, that you are real, that everyone else is really here, and that is a real meeting, changes how we relate to this meeting. The computer, the technology, that of course is part of this, becomes secondary. It's just a mean to connect with each other. And when I see, not on my screen, but through my screen, I see Fran, I see Lynn, I see Patricia, I see Judy, I see Sarah, I see Philippa, I see Carol, and on and on. And I'm very glad to see you. And I'm very aware that you're really here with me, and I appreciate that. And to be aware of each other's presence is something that we also call to break the computer hypnosis. Because usually when we are on our computer, there's a hypnosis of being with our computer also, because we have so many we are so used to be with our computer in our own space, in our own private space. But here it's different. The computer is just a means to be with each other. And that's something that we can together learn how to do, how to appreciate, and how to expand.
And as Thomas was saying, that there's, of course, limitations. We can't touch. And I think a lot of people are really missing touch right now with this social distancing. We can't smell, but we can experience a certain kind of depth that actually is quite rare in our face-to-face encounters. And that's part of what's surprising, because without our capacity for touch, without the physical presence, something else begins to come to the fore between us. We realize we are really here, and we are here in presence. We are here in our existence, our being. And in that we are being together. And that is true when we come together physically, that we meet at that level, but often we are much more tuned into the physical aspects of being together, and we miss that there is a subtle dimension of our presence, of being, that we don't notice when we're physically together. But here, if you look through this computer into the different spaces that we're in, you see it's like, oh, there's a human being who is present here. And that presence is a very subtle, very, very beautiful thing. And this opens up a potential for intimacy that also is there because we are meeting in our own homes, in our own workspaces, in the places that are usually private to us. We are here together, sharing this space, engaging, seeing each other, and we are also here with our background, literally our background. And that background is a glimpse into a culture, into one's personal life. And that is a very intimate thing. And it's part of what becomes possible and immediate in this shared online space.
And it's one of the main differences between offline meetings and online meetings, where a disadvantage also comes with an advantage. The disadvantage is that usually when we meet on site, in a place, in a room, in a circle, at a table, we go physically through a process of initiations that we're usually not aware of. What I mean with initiations, it's a big word, but in fact it's true. When we leave our house, our private house, we go on the street, we go in the car, we go in the public traffic, we are very aware that we change spaces every single time. Then we enter a house, then we enter a room, then we go to a circle or sit around the table. All this going somewhere with our body is an initiation, so that we're very aware when we sit down somewhere, that we're aware this is a business meeting, or now I'm sitting in church. And being in the business room, I'm initiated already to be in the business room, and I have the context inwardly to be aware this is a business meeting. If I go to church, I'm aware I'm in a church. It's different. And I'm initiated to a different space. Here we don't go with our bodies through this process of initiation, because we are still sitting at the same spot we have been sitting half an hour ago, and most of us were just on their own in their private space. So as we don't go with our bodies, we have to go inwardly with our intention and attention to leave our privacy behind and open up that, yes, some way we are still in our private home or in our office space, but we opened up and we are in this shared space, and we are with all these people here together. So it is an inward opening that we have to consciously make, because if we don't make it consciously, we just don't make it, and we maybe at our computer on our screen, but we're completely closed up that we are with other people. We're not aware of it because we're still in this closed up private space. But the advantage of this disadvantage is, because we need to consciously do this in this inward way, we have to do something that we have to do anyway all the time, because we even can be in a business meeting or in a church and we moved our body there, but we are not there. All of us know that. So because we have to train this muscle of intention and awareness, because otherwise we won't be able to do this, we are much more aware of what we have to do anyway to be in each other's presence, to open up, to be vulnerable, to be with each other. It's somehow because we are so much dependent on these inward movements, we also can train these inward movements in a way that we much more consciously know what we have to do in order to be with each other. So in that sense, it is also an opportunity to be aware. In the end, if we are not inwardly here, present with each other, even if our bodies are, we are not.
Mm.
And in that sense, this is a beautiful space to learn this.
And learn is important because this is a new human space. This is a space that we're pioneering, that how human beings engage in a space like this and what is possible is just opening up now. It's something that we need to bring our humanness to. We are warming up cold technology with our hearts, our care, our intelligence, our creative energy. And this is the role that technology has played throughout culture, that usually the technological advances or leaps even into the printed word are ahead of our consciousness. So for example, when we move from an oral tradition into reading from books, we first read for many years, read out loud, because the process of reading and engaging and understanding what is being said, being as a mental process, human beings weren't capable of doing that yet. And now you think when you open a book of poetry, or you open a scientific book, you can read and you can feel the difference in the quality of the words and of the intelligence behind what you're reading. So we've become very sophisticated in being able to discriminate and feel with through black marks on white paper. And so we're doing that here. We have this new technology, and how do we infuse it with our humanness? And in fact, in the process, maybe find ways that allow us to develop capacities that we may not even have had before, in terms of our sensitivity and awareness and capacity for connectivity. And that's a tremendously exciting thing.
So having said all of this, we just also would invite you to just take a deep breath and just allow yourself again to arrive here, and also be deeply aware what it means to arrive here with each other, and also to sense that this is a shared space. To a big degree, there is also an inner awareness where we, in a subtle way, are aware that I'm not on my own with my computer right now, although I'm still with the same computer I have been maybe half an hour before. But the space I'm in has changed. It's an inner sense that I am aware that I'm in presence of others. And I would like you to just to focus on this inner awareness of the shared space. Because it's this inner awareness that we are with each other that allows us to stay with each other. Because only when we acknowledge this, and when we also strengthen this awareness, we allow to be not cut off, but with each other. And it makes a difference if every one of us would be here at the screen, but everyone would at the same time would just read his or her emails or do something else. It would somehow look the same space, but the space would change. Because somehow on the surface it would look the same, but we would not be together. And particularly when we come into conversation, the nourishing of this togetherness is sensible. It's sensible if we open up or if we stay just with our separate self-sense. And to be aware for one's own is the foundation to be also capable of helping others to step into this space. Because part of what we really want to do with this course, to help each other, to help others to step into this space of togetherness and aliveness in an online meeting.
And actually what you're saying, Thomas, about learning to discern these subtle differences, that when we put ourselves behind them, when we go, oh yeah, I can start to sense this, and then we lean into it with our being. What we're learning how to do this, as we were saying, is a new thing. That means that we're in a place of not knowing. We're in a place that is unknown and tenuous. And in fact, we are culturally in an enormous place of not knowing. This is this time of crisis, and what it is that we're in the midst of, both with the anti-racism protests, of course, with the coronavirus. We're in the middle of some big flux, and the ways that we make sense of things and the ways that we find our anchor, for many of us and for many of the people I'm sure that you work with, is shaking right now. But there's a tremendous opportunity in this place of not knowing. And as I think many of us who work with people and work with transformation, you know that in order for something new to happen, that usually means that someone has to let go of something, or has to be in a place where there's a softness instead of a rigid, I know this all already, I've got it all figured out. But the fact that this is happening, and that we don't know what will emerge from this, we don't know we can see that there are big forces being activated around the world. And we're here in this new space. All of these things decenter us, move us into a place of vulnerability, a place of not being secure. But that is the place where transformation actually happens. And I'd like you to keep that in mind as we go through this process together. What we would like to do next is to help you break through this further through this screen, and we're going to invite you to meet in small groups, in mostly 2s and a few 3s.
In fact, we do meet here. One of the limitations of Zoom groups, because we wanted all of you to meet in groups of 2 right now, but we cannot have more than 50 breakout rooms. So some of you we have to put in groups of 3 now. But the reason for it is the limitation in Zoom that although we can meet 500 people, we cannot make more than 50 breakout groups. So this is part of the reason why some of you will be in group of 3. So we will, and this is in fact a powerful tool that we also recommend to use for your own purpose in whatever you do, to bring people into connection, because you will see being one-on-one or one-on-2 creates a different atmosphere where the reality of being with each other is much more direct and strong. And what we would like to do is
is we would like for you to meet in silence to start with, and bring yourself up close to your computer so that you can be there with another person, and or another person or two, and then we will send you a little message that will say you can now speak, and then introduce yourselves and why you're here, what has motivated you to be here. And we ask you to meet in these first silent moments, or these first silent minutes, in presence. Be present to each other. We often energetically take things in. Here, give out your presence. Open to be with another, and see what that experience is like. I'm aware that there are cultural differences in how people encounter each other face to face. In some cultures, eye contact is not made. It's not appropriate. I ask you to, if you can, be with that, be with another in the deepest way that you know how. It's also going to happen very quickly that all of a sudden you are bam with someone else. And I also want to mention one technical thing. In the upper right corner of your own screen, your own little corner of our shared space, there's a drop-down menu, 3 little dots if you put your cursor up there, and there's a drop-down menu, and at the bottom it says Hide Self View. And that will mean that you don't see yourself.
Everyone else sees you, but basically you go through this experience without having a mirror of yourself in your face all the time. So you can choose if you want to have this online experience with each other with a mirror or without a mirror. Make your own choice.
Yeah. Does that is that understandable? Great. Thank you. So we'll do a minute or two in silence together, and then we'll send you a little note. It will flash at the top of your screen. It's blue, that says, please introduce yourselves, and then introduce yourselves and why you're here. And then we'll be back in probably in 6 minutes or so.
Yeah. So when we start the breakout rooms, you will see a pop-up window where you are invited to join the breakout group. Just say yes, and then you will end up in this breakout room, and then you will see the message from us, and in the end we will bring you back.
Yeah.
Enjoy your meetings.
Hi, I'm confused. Is this a new chat now, or you can't hear me, huh?
This is the main room, and everyone is coming back right now.
Oh, I see.
Yes, I pressed the button. I thought I was moving it over. So, oh, I lost my partner.
Me too.
Yeah, well, the time is over, right? The time has ended.
Yeah.
60 seconds is, you can say a lot.
Yes, that's right.
All right.
I think we're all back.
Yeah, all back.
Yeah, great. Good. So you're now all muted, and we're going to invite you to share your experience. And to do that, you can just unmute yourself and speak. or raise your hand. And to raise your hand, as we said before, you go to the participants icon that's below the people in the screen, and click that, and then you'll get a list of all the participants in it. And at the bottom of that, it tells you how to raise hand.
And Isabel, you already raised your hand if you want to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you for this elegant offering in the middle of Zoom confusion. I am so grateful, and I had a lovely partner, and I want to just share that that we so much enjoyed meeting each other, and felt that it would be even more deepening to be able to introduce each other first and then have the silence, because there's greater knowing of that person. So I just wanted to add that into the mix, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about what is to come.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel. One of the reasons why we start with the silence is to bring yourself into introduction from a different place. A place that is not simply, this is my identity, but actually has a ground that is not separate underneath. Because silence is a language that we all share. And it's also a space in which we're not separate. So we want to start with that. We've got a lot up.
I'm very comfortable with silence. I'm a meditator and I teach meditation. I would like to offer that because it might be more comfortable for some.
Sayara? Austin? Just unmute yourself.
Sorry. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes? Okay. I just thank you for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to 4 days of deepening this. I've been doing very intimate Zoom meetings with Thomas Hübel's Timeless Wisdom training that usually we meet in Germany. But because of the COVID, we're meeting online. And just one comment, the time went very fast, and I didn't see a prompt where one person would be finished and a second person would start. And it may be that I simply didn't see that prompt. But I'm used to, in all of the Zoom intimate conversations, having a kind of start and stop of each person. And so I don't know if there was a prompt for the second person, because then we ran out when we got to the second person, which was me, we were getting the prompt to return to the group.
Good.
So I think
there may
I'm just used to it a different way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think there was a prompt miss somewhere in there. They don't stay forever. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Divya?
Hello.
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 Hi. You can hear me?
Yes.
Great. Firstly, thank you for sharing this and putting this on. I was very moved by the silence, and even though I meditate every day, just being in the silence of the company of any human being isn't really the norm. And like you say, just in fact, I felt I gathered more from the silence than any of the words, if that's not too grand to say that. Very beautiful. It was like opening a novel and just discovering the beginnings of a character and having assumptions. So I thought that was very deep. And if I may share about the lady who I was connected with, we got emotional. I mean, I could see that in me and her. And who knows why she was getting emotional, who knows why I was, and we'll never know. And so be it. And there's something quite beautiful you know, I can have all the ideas about that. And it actually helped bring me back, because when I realized I was going into ideas about the person, your words at the start about being present, I was like, well, that's interesting, part of my imagination, but I'll just come back to here and now. So a reminder of the listening in silence, which I'd love far more of, particularly in this day and age, and in the last few months of being constantly connected and hearing voices and reading words. It's heavy going. If I may share, and then I will move on, because obviously there's many others here to speak, but with both the COVID and then the race issue going on, which I'm sure a lot of us have knowledge of, to whatever extent, I've really wanted silence, and it seems like we're all being told that's the wrong thing. So I had this thought that this is such a shame that that's not understood, that silence doesn't mean inaction or what have you. I've even had this amongst friends, and they've not quite understood. So it's a bit of a segue, but it just made me think of that there's perhaps not, it's by no ill intention, but I think society could benefit from understanding the nuances of really, you know, pausing in contemplation, that it isn't withdrawal within, that actually it could be contemplation for everyone's benefit. So
If I may come
yeah.
in,
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Because also for the purpose of this exercise, I appreciate very much basically also sharing your vulnerability in meeting the partner you met. Because that's part of the reason why we start this way. Because in this one-on-one or one-to-two meetings that we have, it's a very different energetic experience than being with 120, 130 people. It's much easier to objectify the others when there are so many. And that's part of the challenge in doing this on screen. But when I'm with one or two others, the humanity of the other, as I see you right now, and I'm very, very aware of your you-ness in this. And again, as I said before, in fact, I don't care so much about that we see each other on a computer. That's okay. That's how it is. The main event is that we are in the conversation right now, and that I'm in your presence, and then I feel exposed to you. And in the moment this happens, where the sparks happens, where humanness meets humanness, and technicity disappears, or at least becomes secondary, the aliveness of this space and the humanness of this space can come to its ownness. And this is why we start with this exercise, because in a small group or one-on-one group, the experience of the realness of us, that I'm not a computer and you are not a computer, that in fact we have a human heartbeat on both sides, is something that is tangible. And to be part of this is the foundation to have real meetings online. So just thank you for this. And I agree, stillness is a powerful way to experience this.
Thank you. Mac?
Mac is really the name of my machine. I don't know why that went up there.
Is that you?
My name is Kathy. And I just want to say thank you for doing this. I've been facilitating small groups at church that have been in a room around a chalice, and a very, very intimate setting where the energy between one another is very palpable. And having been now resorted to Zoom meetings, it just feels very different for me. And I miss that, that intimacy and that energy exchange. So I really appreciate you doing this, and I'm hoping that it'll give me some ideas, that already has actually, about how to make those meetings more intimate, more personal. Yeah. It was very nice meeting the people in my group, and it's nice to realize that this is really a global group, and we're, you know, the three of us from different areas, and It's very nice. I thank you very much for this.
You're welcome. And you can feel the presence of the other, of another human being in this small, this contact between just you, right?
Right.
We have to slow down for that and become aware of what we're being aware of in order to be able to make that contact. But it can be built, and that's part of what's exciting. As you saw, it can be built in across great distances.
Yes.
And actually, that's something that I would like to comment on, the mystery of that you are present to and alive to a connection with another human being, sharing a space, and yet are thousands of miles apart.
It's amazing.
Mind-blowing about that.
Yeah. Because interesting enough, when you were sharing about your experience in your chapel, if I understood right, coming together in this round, in this energetic exchange, Elizabeth and I have you just on speaker view, so we have you full screen. And at least on our side, the experience is that there's a real energetic exchange on screen. And of course, this is something that is very new to us, to all of us. And to go beyond the intimidation of computers and to kind of also penetrate this computer surface and reach the humanness of our encounter in this way. I'm not saying that this is the same like a physical meeting, it's not, but just acknowledging the fact that we are thousands of miles apart physically, and there's an intimacy of just seeing you and being able to talk to you, and to be aware that this is a human possibility to just cherish this and to experiment with this is something that we find a very powerful possibility of coming together also online.
Thank you again.
Jean Lloyd?
Yeah, yes. So our experience together, one of the things that stood out for me, and I did end up being pretty emotional once we began, is because when we first came into that room and we were just looking at one another, and the more that we sat in that experience, the more you could go beyond the surface and go deeper and see the heart of each other. And although I have enjoyed and liked being in spaces with people and meditating and doing different things, this offered me something different. And as the sister said earlier about the power of silence and what it could possibly do and change, it just really struck me, and that there's a different way that we could possibly show up with each other. And because I am in Minneapolis, where where it started, and that there is so much talking right now. And I was like, it's a gift to just be silent. And we could look beyond each other. And the longer we sat, the more we touched one another in a different way that we wouldn't have been able to, that I don't think that I have been in spaces where we would have allowed ourselves to look that deeply at each other.
Yeah. We all are so busy with our ideas and the things that we feel are important, that this fundamental connection of human to human through this, it's kind of mind-boggling. We're in Frankfurt, Germany, and we're speaking with you in Minneapolis, and that the fact that there is an essence to you and to me, and it's not a different essence. There's something essential about being human that we touch in this, and then from there all of our differences arise, but but it starts from a place that is not separate. And we find that we're not separate in silence. We find that we're not separate in presence. And it's a very profound starting point for conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
Janet?
Yes, thank you. I'm speaking to you from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and have the same wonder and appreciation that I know in my triad. We were in Arizona, England, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, but I appreciate first the eloquence of what's come before. Divya, Elizabeth, Jean framed it so beautifully, but I'm a pretty busy mind, and I know that. So I appreciated more and more the silence. And I looked at my clock to echo one of the earlier offerings that I thought, I wonder if they forgot to turn on the introduce you, because my mind is busy. But as I stayed in the space, I appreciated more and more that same thing Elizabeth just mentioned, that we were meeting without the separation of who am I, why am I here, even names and places. We were meeting on more of a, for lack of another word, for more of a soul level. And I watched the physical changes that happened to, I think, I thankfully was very happy to know I can turn my self view off, because then I could just look at my triad folks. And I saw the changes that probably were also happening in me as we softened in the space together and were more present, I think, in a heart way. And one of our members even mentioned that. So I thank you for the chance to turn off my mind and meet in silence first, and then enjoy the rest that comes. But I think I really ended up thinking it was a brilliant invitation. So thank you.
Thank you, Janet. In fact, we have to apologize. There are still many hands up, and we won't be able to get to everyone, because we also would introduce our next setting here in our next group. And in order to do that, we would also invite you to just be aware that the way we are in this presence holds 2 dimensions. Of course, it holds many dimensions, but there are 2 dimensions I particularly would like to highlight. One is that every single one of us is very aware of oneself. I, Thomas, am very aware in my here-ness and who I am, how I identify myself, my background, and the way I, from my perspective, am aware of you. There's a Thomas perspective. I can see you. And this is a very important and a powerful way of being here, because that allows me to be here as Thomas. There's also one other aspect that I would like to highlight that is important in any kind of gathering, but even more so in an online gathering, because again, online gathering is not held by any physical utilities. It's only held by our consciousness. What I mean is that I'm not here on my own. I'm also not here just seeing objects. I'm here in a shared space I'm part of. It's a we space. And I can be very aware that we are in a shared big we space right now. And this is an inner awareness I can allow myself to be more conscious of. Because if we don't allow ourselves to also open up ourselves to this V space, it's quite likely that particular in an online meeting where nothing is holding us but our consciousness, the space becomes or stays very fragmented. We're just basically all single eye spaces that maybe share little messages, but we stay in our isolation. But to the degree that we are aware, yes, there's this me, but there's something that I not only have an idea of, but I have an experience of. There is a wholeness that we are together in that I can be aware of and appreciate. This shared consciousness of the existence of this V-space allows to hold the wholeness of us and allows us as a force of consciousness to not fragment as we are engaging in our dialogue.
So just as each of us can give presence to the other, we can recognize that there is a dimension of connectivity that is subtle, that is the inner space of our togetherness.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not simply that we each see a pattern of faces on our screens, but in recognizing the presence that we share, we start to relate to a more subtle dimension that holds us together. And part of what we're going to be doing these 4 days is developing the sensing capacity to sense into this subtle dimension that connects us. And we're going to be doing exercises. We started with one-on-one or small groups of 3, because that's the place. I mean, since one was born, the bond between mother and child, it's a one-to-one relationship. We're so primed to recognize the presence of another human being in a one-on-one contact. But what we're going to do is, over the course of these days, we're going to expand the size of our groups in order that you can develop the capacity, the kind of inner consciousness muscle to be able to hold open and embrace larger and larger groups of people online. And that capacity gives you raises a different kind of potentiality between us.
So what we would like to invite you first here and then in a small group is to engage with a little inner exercise of awareness of your own presence. And for doing this, we would like to find yourself in an upright position and not on the chair, so that you just find yourself upright, and again have a deep breath. That is always good, and allow yourself just to, with your breath, breathing out, to be here. And we would like to use our body as a little indicator to help us for a differentiation of an inner experience. It's really just to help that the body works as a signifier of 2 dimensions of our experience of being here. And for doing that, I would like to all of us to lean a little back out of balance in yourself. And while doing that, inwardly go into your own me space, the way you are here with yourself right now. And just be aware, this is me, this is my awareness, this is how I am here in this very moment.
So that's your inner world of thought and feeling, your judgments, your discomfort, your sensory experience of your body. It's the part that is self-referential. So this kind of leaning back, kind of pulling in, feeling oneself. And then we want you to just to open up. And it's interesting, many of you close your eyes at that point, but now open up and just a little bit lean forward. And the leaning forward is not just a mechanical back and forth, but lean forward and open to the whole of us, the we. So there's a slightly back and pulled together with one in one's mind and thoughts and feelings, and then opening to the we. And a little lean forward.
And as you lean forward, just be aware how this V space feels like. How this space is in your own experience, where you will lean yourself into the wholeness of this gathering, and you're aware, no, I'm not just on my own. There is a whole space I'm part of. How does this feel to be part of something that we are together in? You don't lose yourself, there's still your me. But it's part of something that we are also together in. And allow yourself just to feel how interesting, that's how this V space feels like. Maybe it's different than the space before. Maybe it has similarities. Maybe it has differences. Just allow, this is how this V space feels for you. And then just experiment with your body and your inner senses and lean back, go a little out of balance to the back, and go into this me space where you go into the position that you held before and say, oh, this is how this me space feels like. Interesting. This is how the world looks from this perspective. And then I would like to invite you to lean forward, again, slightly out of balance in the forward leaning position, and also inwardly lean forward into this V space. And oh, interesting, this is a V space. This is a wholeness I'm part of. This is how the world looks from the perspective of this we. Interesting, this may be slightly different. And I would invite you to, in your own rhythm, maybe play a little bit back and forth. This is this, and this is that, just to experiment how this feels and how that feels and how the world looks from here and how the world looks from there.
It's not, the physical movement is less important than the focus on self and the focus on the whole. Focus on self versus focus on whole. And there's a slight, you may notice a slight shift in your consciousness, in your awareness between one and the other. And it's that difference that we want you to become really curious about. Really curious about. Is there a difference between the focus on me, myself, and what it is that I'm experiencing, and this wide and focused on who we are together, on this we. So we're going to break into small groups, and we would like you to experiment a little bit. We'll experiment for yourself in silence, the kind of back and forth, or the you don't have to move if that becomes distracting, but focus on self versus focus on the whole. And then after about a minute, we will tell you to speak together about the difference in the experience that you feel.
So we'll put you in the groups as we did before. There'll be bigger groups. There'll be groups between 5 and 6. And first, just allow yourself to come together, to be aware of each other, be aware of this particular space that you're in there. It's a different space than being with 125 people.
Or with just one or two.
Or just one or two. Just be aware of this. And then just inwardly, and maybe with the support of your body, just allow yourself to experiment a little bit. This is how this feels from this me perspective, and this how it feels and looks like from this we perspective.
It's how does the sense of relationship, the relatedness, change between the two? Explore that a little bit for yourself, and then we'll ask you to speak together about it.
So after 2 minutes or so, we will give you a message to start to exchange yourself, and then we will have another
like 13, 15 minutes, something like that. And we'll tell you when you're 5 minutes from the end.
To share, and 5 minutes to the end, we will give you a message that we will get back in the big group in 5 minutes, and then we can continue to talk about this in the bigger group. So
what we're doing is we're expanding our capacity to be in presence with a larger group of people. Okay. Welcome back. I think not everyone's back yet.
no. So let's wait a couple of seconds until everyone will come back in the big room. Okay, I think we are back now. I hope you enjoyed the exercise.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you and hear about this difference between the me and the we. How is it that you experience that in this group with 5 or 6 other people?
We already have some people who raised their hand, and I would invite Mary Lapham to come in. Hello, Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Good morning. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The most salient thing to me is I felt this sense of choice, sense of power.
Right.
And I felt like dipping my toe in a river, the river of energy, you know. But I felt safe. It was my choice. And I was so glad. I think Kathy talked about sitting around the chapel and how each person brought their energy, or the chalice, I mean. Just that feeling of energy. It was wonderful. Thank you.
That energy is what we mean by aliveness.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a pure form of aliveness. It's not an emotional liveliness. We're going to talk about this more as we go on. It is the presence of life.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in fact, I'm very grateful that you brought in the choice factor, because that's something that we would like to work with here. First, to be aware that there's this difference of staying in one's own space and moving into this we space, and then being aware that I have a choice to do that. And with the choice, I also can become aware that I can care for this, because I am free to care for this in choosing that I choose this we space and not stay separate from this we space. Yeah. So the experience of this choice that you are talking about is very empowering.
It's safe. I felt safe. I could choose. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
I say, and also, as you practice this or work with this, you'll realize that the element of choice that you're choosing to open and enter into this space, to make oneself available to it, is what brings it alive. So you can't force someone into this, which is empowering and strengthening, and also is what makes it happen. It is built on our free choice.
I wanted to say one last thing. I realized I wasn't watching TV because I could do that all I wanted with the television.
Right.
But I wouldn't get anything back.
Yeah.
So thanks.
You're welcome. Okay. Shadi.
There we go. Hello, and thank you for pronouncing my name right the first time.
Oh, me.
So I had already started this sort of sensing of the me, we space in the first sharing, where we were in silence for so long. It had sort of started me thinking about how babies, you know, are connected to their mothers when they're breastfeeding, and then they disconnect, and they connect and they disconnect. And I know that goes on even though they're there at the breast the whole time, but energetically. So I guess I was making myself a little bit wrong in the first sharing with someone for having those moments of disconnecting. And then I remembered, you know, a yoga teacher of mine saying, you know, forward bend, back bend, you know, smooth in, pull out. And it really kind of gave me permission. And then for you to move into that as the next thing that we're doing was a really beautiful synchronicity. I found I had a little bit of a challenge. I have a little bit of a challenge being in me and then switching back and forth. It's like I need to exercise that muscle, that, you know, grow that ability over time. And yeah, so that was something I was noticing as well. The group, the small group sharing was just beautiful, lovely, lovely people that I connected with. You really pulled together a beautiful community here for these sessions. So
Great.
thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for being here. It's an interesting thing how, again, this sort of relates to what Mary was saying, that this is a choice. This is it is that the toggling between the two is like an in-breath and out-breath. You know, you're using your yoga analogy, and it is a muscle to practice, because we're not practiced at this. That's part of the newness, is to maintain one sense of ultimate control, because one is here or in the way that one wants to be, and yet to practice the kind of trust and the kind of spaciousness of self and with other that is called for here. And you know, most of us have lots of habits of pulling back, and often they happen so fast we don't even notice. But so this is a great practice in sort of conscious openness, and it's a very powerful thing. And because it's on screen, there's a way it can even be a little bit more safe, because you could always click leave and be out of here if you needed to be, and that's also a powerful thing.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because it means that we're growing actually in ability, because we all do come in and out of our connection with others quite automatically or quickly that we don't even notice. So to develop this skill here with a very conscious effort, we'll be able to take it into our in-person, we'll be able to take it into our exchanges with other people on all kinds of levels. That I think will be very, very powerful. So yeah, the gift is just multiplied for the exercise. Thank you.
And that place, what's important about it is that it starts from not being separate, and that is a very powerful thing. It's a different, as we were saying earlier, It's a different way into conversation. Thank you. Fran. Is Fran here?
I'm here. Okay.
Great.
Hi, friend.
It was as physical as goosebumps leaning forward. And I could feel my conversation with myself shut off and turn back on when I leaned back. It was that physical.
Friend, thank you so much for bringing this in, because it is, in fact, one of the most surprising findings I find, how physical these meetings are. Because it's kind of it's kind of strange. I mean, here we are, I don't know how many 1,000 miles apart, and we see each other on screen via internet, whatever that is, but it's an embodied experience of togetherness. It is not happening in the mind. It's not happening in the eyes only. It's happening as an embodied togetherness. And this is also important because there are no sense organs of this shared space outside of our body. It's where do I sense that I'm touched by seeing you? I don't sense this in my brain. I sense this in my heart. I sense it in my cells. So to bring everything online here, to be aware that it is possible to be touched by each other and be touched by the space that we open up here together, allows us also to open our sensitivity for this space. And quite often when we are with a computer, we're just used to shut down all the senses, because a computer is an intellectual instrument and I do whatever I do, maybe on Facebook to type, but it's not this real human-to-human interaction, because this is very different. This is really different than most things we do on computer. This is not about computers. This is about us. It happens to be on the computer, but the computer is really, to some degree, irrelevant. I see you right now, and I just to be touched by your presence, that's the real event. If this is happening on my screen, who cares?
And when I would lean back, both the first time and the second time, I felt loss.
Yeah.
I lost, I mean, in some ways I was still connected, but I felt a loss. I can't put words on it yet, but I felt it.
Yeah.
Great.
No, thank you also for that. I mean, it's more about the inner movement than about the outer movement. But one thing that is important to realize, as we do this online on our computers, we are in our private space. And it's very easy to fall into the habit to fall into one's privacy. And then all of a sudden you're miles away from my inner eye. I'm just in my private space and in the habits of my private space. So it needs awareness to come in. And when I fall out, I really fall out. I'm not in this space anymore. And this is very much what we try to exercise here together.
And if I could take a guess at the loss, there's a wholeness when we're in this interbeing, which is what it is. It's an interpenetrating, interrelated, in between being. There's a wholeness there. That's what Thomas was speaking about before we did the exercise. This opening is into an intuitive sense of whole. And then you realize that most of the time in my me space, I have cut off from wholeness. But here it's very immediate. You pull back and there it is. Oh, I've lost that. And this is all of the stories in human cultures about the fall or the way we used to be, where things were whole and now we're separate. It's in this little exercise one can experience that difference. So there is a loss, and that loss is usually what we live in. So this wholeness is intuiting this and developing one's one's ability to, by choice, be with this and have the kind of soul strength to do that is a foundation for this work.
And again, we have to apologize because there are so many hands up, and we would like to make a break now. In fact, half an hour break. And part of what we experience how to do online meetings like this is also to have a sensitivity to not be too long just online and make a break really a break. So we also would suggest to not go to your email right now or not to go to Facebook right now. If you can go outside and maybe look at the sky, feel the air, feel the sun or the rain, have a cup of tea, take a time for yourself to also digitalize and bring yourself also in the non-digital self, and allow yourself to come back in half an hour refreshed and grounded.
Indeed, digitalize, but stay with the aliveness because it's all around us. It's in the leaves of the trees. It's in our gardens, in the sky above. This quality of aliveness is everywhere, and tune in.
So you can leave your Zoom open. You just can switch off your camera and your mic. You don't have to log off. And we will see each other quarter to the hour. And if you're in India, it's quarter after the hour in 30 minutes.
No, the other way around.
The other way
That's
around.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, in a half an hour.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay. We're talking to one another, but we're only about a mile apart.
Okay, so welcome back. And I'm not sure we're all back yet. We're getting there. Okay. So we've muted everyone, and everyone has the capacity to unmute themselves and as you like. And because there's more than one screen, it's probably the best thing if you raise your hand through the hand raise signal. And we hope you had a nice break, had a little air, a little refreshment, and maybe even a little chance to reflect and get a little bit of space around your own immediate experience, because we would like to call your attention to the qualities and the experience and the way that we can align with this opening to the we. So we will, between now and the end of the session, we will take as many comments as possible, but our focus is on collectively in these exchanges, collectively beginning to learn more clearly what is the difference between we could say my ordinary state of consciousness, or the one that I'm most habitually in, and this opening that we also all know, but we want to make conscious and to engage with consciously in order to create an alive sense of this interbeing, and collectively bring the space between us alive.
So we still have some hands up, and I'm not sure, Eli Aurora, if you still want to speak, but if you want to, you can unmute your microphone.
Sure. Thank you both and everyone. I was outside gardening a little bit, and I was taking all this quack grass away from these beautiful strawberry plants, and I think that was it's a metaphor for what we're doing together, is we're pulling out these the quack grass of our minds and of distraction, so that we can, you know, find these fruits that are underneath everything that we're all connected to. I just was finding that the smile, or smiling with others in each group, was one of the most powerful ways that I could connect with people. And as I smiled, I noticed other people smiling, and then it kind of, there's some research on this, that we have this automatic reflex to smile back in return. And that was the way that I felt that connection. And then another thing I've noticed as a musician and as an artist is that this liminal space we're all tuning into is, and also the field of systemic constellation work, it's beyond time and space. And when we come together with sound or art, it is a similar sense that I feel too.
I think they both depend on a quality of resonance.
Right.
There's a vibrational quality to this tuning into each other that may be revealed in a smile, but there's underneath there's a resonance, a human resonance, and that's also, music is based on that kind of resonance, and playing with the different qualities of it, including the dissonance, but it's all within a sense of vibrational potentiality.
And in fact, as you are a musician, I really would like to also make the analogy that what we're doing is an art form.
Yeah.
Dialogue is a form of art. And it's in fact very, very familiar. This kind of dialogue is very familiar when you have a jam session in jazz. I mean, you bring your instrument and an improvised session, and every dialogue is improvised because nobody's reading a manuscript. We are relating to each other. We are responding to each other. We're in resonance with that. It's very much what you do when you play live music with each other. And like in music, it only becomes harmony when we hear each other in the wholeness of the whole space. If I just hear my instrument, I can do whatever, I can be perfect on my instrument. But if I don't hear you, and if you don't hear each other, it won't be music. So part of what this dialogical space is, a way to understand it is really a form of music understanding, that with the means of language, which by the way has a lot of music in itself, because language has rhythm, there are breaks, it has a sound, there's a tone, there's a lot of music in talking to each other. And of course it has meaning, words hold meaning. So we are weaving a space of meaning and energy and consciousness. And I find it a very powerful way to understand what we are doing. And we start understand it as a form of collective art in the way we play music together.
Absolutely. I'm also curious, a follow-up question, and I've been experimenting with this as a facilitator, playing music and doing some music meditations once a week. But I'm also curious, when do we as facilitators, those who are facilitators on the call, bring music in to support presence and to support this interconnected space? And how have you seen it work, and have you seen it not work?
Both.
Yeah. Yeah, and to say why it was one versus the other, I don't think I can pull up right now.
The main way to how I understand how it works or it doesn't work, again relates to music. It's the seeking for resonance.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, to some degree, that's all what we're doing when we're talking. We're seeking for resonance. And my experience is when there's no resonance on the other side, I'm powerless. There's nothing I can do. But if my sense organs are very tuned to resonance, and we build on resonance, resonance can build each other. So the invitation to these dialogical spaces is always an invitation to a collective resonance that holds a lot of multiplicity in itself. It's not a simple resonance. It holds multiplicity and wholeness at the same time. And the degree that people resonate to this field becomes stronger. And usually there's a point where the resonance field as a whole is so inviting that even people who in the beginning had a hard time to resonate feel pulled into the resonance. And then something very powerful happens. And again, it's nothing where you can strategize yourself into it. Mm-hmm. You have to be very aware how resonance is building and support the resonance as it's coming up. And that is the way how successful dialogue usually works.
And that is the art that what you were just describing is which takes practice, right? And takes making mistakes and takes learning what creates resonance. When you were saying that, I had this image of all of us as drums here, and yet the words that we use are like the mallet hitting the drum, and it's that the difference between that and hitting a piece of stone. You know, it's a different. We want those vibrations. We want that softness of self that allows for play and movement. That is how we're touched, and it's like exploring this and learning by trial and error is how you develop the art.
And it's a skill, just to pick up one skill. Sometimes a sound comes in that really dissonates. It's really dissonant. It's really sometimes painful. But to kind of point this out creates even more pain. And there is a way of artfully invite it back into resonance, even if something is dissonance. And then sometimes what starts as a dissonance becomes even a more complex, more beautiful resonance. That is a richness that becomes what felt as a disturbance in the beginning. In the end, it's an enrichening of the space. And this is something that I think artful facilitation can provide.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Really.
Mm-hmm. Isabel? Isabel?
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
I apologize. I had the experience in our small group of just being bathed in the presence of the other members of my group. And it was intensified by hiding my self-view.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Because I had the experience that I was much closer to meeting with them in a circle of seeing them.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing them and receiving what they had to offer. So I wanted to point out that's a very easy thing to do, and I haven't used that before. And this whole experience is filling me with gratitude because I have had a visceral, repugnant resistance to taking things online because of the very qualities that you are teaching us can be nurtured. So thank you.
Mm. And when you think about where we are right now, we need these qualities so desperately.
Yeah.
And then we're kept from we're not able to be together.
Right.
So to be able to do this and then to do it on a global scale I feel is an incredible gift.
Yeah.
Mm.
And also, if you allow me to say it the other way around, I'm grateful for you to come online.
Mm.
Because your qualities are needed online. Because usually these online meetings are filled with people who have an affinity to technology and not necessarily affinity to consciousness and sensitivity. but this is needed to be brought online. And usually people who have the qualities have exactly the repulsion that you're talking about. And I understand that, but to my understanding, there is also a big misunderstanding in this, because many people feel it's so stressful, I don't like it. And one story that really kind of explains this to me, when we learn to drive a car, it's very stressful to have the wheel and the gears and the rules. And basically, it's very stressful to learn to drive a car. But in the same, when we learn to play an instrument like the guitar or the piano, it's very stressful to learn all of that. But there is a point of mastery where all of a sudden driving a car when you're not stuck in traffic can be a very beautiful thing. You're just driving on the road, it can be just flying. Something beautiful, in particular when you master an instrument, play the piano, play the guitar, all of a sudden you forget about the pain of learning a piano. You just play maybe jazz, maybe Mozart, and you are not with the technology, the technique of it, you are with the music of it. And there's something where we all are right now together learning how to play a new instrument, which is online meetings. And the stress that we are in is not the instrument itself, it's the stress before the mastery. But there is the possibility to master this together. And I'm sure so much more is possible when we do this together. So just thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Jennifer.
Hi. I want to ditto the many thank yous, because this is a wonderful opportunity. It's giving me a lot to think about. I was interested in the toggling between the experience of the me and the we, and I began to have a curiosity about being in a both and rather than an either or. That I found that if I could ground myself in the me, be pretty aware of my core, touch with myself, what I was feeling, sensing, and then also from that place, or in addition to that place, widen out to a wider perceptual field. Then I could be present to my small group from a different place of simply leaving the me, moving to the we. That felt more intrusive, almost like I was going out of myself to grab on, to my environment and the other people in it. And if I could stay centered in myself and move from that place, it felt like I was able to be present and perhaps be conscious of the vulnerability and also have some management of that. But to be present to let people be with me and me with them on their terms. So I just wondered if you could comment on a kind of a experience maybe of a both and, or maybe that's actually what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'll take myself off.
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing that up. I think it's a very important point. The we that we're really speaking about is not an objective me, I go away from myself into you. It is a both and it calls on and draws out our unique experience, our who we are, but it's held in a certain way. It's not out there in front, really. In some ways behind and through and with.
Right.
If you know what I mean.
That feels right. Yeah.
Yeah, that the energetic of it is one that is encompassing rather than separating. That's the relationship to the wholeness that we've been speaking about. And I am part of that wholeness.
Right.
But in recognizing the wholeness and that can arise and live between us in this interbeing, we end up responding in different ways than we would from just simply a me perspective.
Definitely. Thank you. I like the word interbeing too. I'm holding on to that. Thanks.
Not Han. That's where it came from. Yeah. Thank you. Great. Lily Simons, you have your hand up?
I had a question beforehand, but I didn't raise my hand this time.
Okay.
Good.
So nothing right now.
All right. Thank you. Good to hear you. Then let's go to Jen. Jen Mason.
Hello, I'd like to echo the thanks. And following Jennifer, I don't quite have it formed in my mind yet, but what came in our group conversation are emerging thoughts that I'm excited to noodle over later about being in, like, the going back and forth. I found that really powerful because I'm a very place-oriented person. Like, I did nature connection work with kids for a long time. And I find that the online meetings are so incredibly exhausting, even though I'm such an extrovert and get energized being with people in person. And it occurred to me in that conversation, a real insight on this, that it's because I'm kind of denying everything that's here to go into the group. And I haven't been doing the both and that you're talking about. So there's an interesting thing about, actually, I've been doing it since you introduced the exercise, and we had that conversation, is to be with the we, but then actually also, and I've actually been doing, like, a little bit actually leaning back, like you said, to just and look past my glasses at where I am and kind of grounding in physical space, which for me is a real key to being present, to ground into space. And so if I ground into my self space here and then lean back into that was really, anyways, it's not a fully formed thought yet, but it was very powerful. Thanks.
Thank you. I think I appreciate also that you brought in nature, because, and we'll speak about this more as we go. The we isn't simply the people who are here. It is, when we talk about the intuition of wholeness, it includes the beautiful trees behind you, the planet that we're on. It is all of that. And the deeper we can let go and open into that, the more our dialogues and our engagement is informed by more than just, in some ways, our own individual experience or thoughts or feelings or opinions or whatever. It becomes informed by the totality of what we're coming from, the world that we're in. And I think that's that's important in responding to the times that we're in. Yeah, thank you. Okay, next. Now I'm going to mess your name up. Saurisa McClory. That's an ancient name.
It is. It's a Gaelic name. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. I think you did quite well with my name. Thank you. It's pronounced Saoirse.
Oh.
So my question has sort of changed with each questionnaire who's gone question and answer that's gone before, and I too want to echo my deep appreciation for all of this, what you're sharing, and then what the group is bringing in, that what the we is allowing and generating. It feels really beautiful, and really loving this. Thank you. And my question, it started out, it was around this kind of back and forth piece. And then Elizabeth, I think you spoke to this just now in terms of, well, and Jen, Jennifer too, in terms of this both and everything. And I think that is what my experience, I'm experiencing sort of being present in my body, and when I'm in this sort of me place, sort of present in my body, and sort of focusing my attention perhaps on my thoughts, perceptions, etc. And then with the invitation to be in the we space, it felt like a shift of attention, or a kind of a vanishing, a letting go. It was kind of almost like an internal hide self view. So letting that fall away. And then the experience was a bit like less going out and more like everything coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel during the break when you talked about, go outside, take in, and it was, okay, so this we, and perhaps, I don't really think, I don't know if there's a question here, maybe there's just more some illumination on this, is just this sense of sort of dropping ourselves and melting a little bit into being just what's here. And perhaps that's where the trust comes in. That's where all these other elements that allow us to practice and refine our engagement with this instrument online. Anyway, I'm not really sure. It's no longer a question, and more trying to sort of pull together these different elements that I'm hearing combined with my experience, and wondering if you have anything to say to that.
Thank you. And I definitely like this inner hide yourself.
Hide self-view.
Hide self-view button, because that very much relates to this experience. The reason why we emphasize this so much is because to the degree we can do this, and this is even more true in online meetings than in on-site meetings, the space becomes alive between us. And when I don't self-reference all the energy flow and the meaning flow and the flow of language that we are weaving here together, then something comes to its ownness that we all participate in. And of course, every one of us is fully needed in our individual presence, but the focus is a different one. The focus is on the shared weaving of this space. And that allows us to experience this togetherness that pulls us together in this. And then something different can take over, that is an interbeing, that is a we space. And that allows a creativity to come forth that is beyond myself, because it's a co-creativity. It's my responding to you, you responding to us, everyone responding to everyone, that allows an intelligence to come forth beyond our individual intelligence. It's also held by our individual intelligence, but it's more than that. And that when that's the point where something very miraculous happens. And the energy flow that everyone is commenting on comes on this place.
Beautiful. Thank you. And I feel what arises for me is that reminder that it's a co-creation and it's an emergence, as opposed to something, just tapping to something there that's almost inert or there beforehand, that it's, and that's the perhaps the aliveness that it's, and we're all in this together and every piece is vital to, is that?
That's so important and so true what you're saying. Both, that it's a co-creation. Nobody is doing it. It's co-created by all of us. And it's emergent. It doesn't come from any preconceived idea what should happen here. So it needs our active listening to what's happening right now, because only in this listening what's happening right now, in my response to this, something can emerge between us that comes out of the presence. And this is where this place happens. And it's both what you're saying, it's the co-creation and it's the emergence.
Great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Martina.
Yes, I'm also kind of, I was also in my garden during the break, and for me there is a kind of a big question about also about resonance, because when I'm standing in front of people and when I'm facilitating groups, I have to switch on my own resonance first. So it's kind of this, how do I do it? And I usually do it through my skin in a way. I find resonance through my skin. And I feel it right now, but for me the question is, does this really work on screen as well? So because this is a different medium, and I can feel it when I'm, when I'm with people, that there is resonance in the room and my resonance is switched on. But through screen, because it's kind of a flat thing, I don't have the awareness yet that this is also kind of working. Yeah, this is one thing, and the other thing is, what really helped me right now is to kind of really being aware. Somebody else, I think Jen, said something about being aware of space around me, and I have the feeling, okay, I'm not just a flat person here because I'm flat. I'm being seen flat on screen by other people, but I have this kind of whole space around me, which I feel is supporting me if I have it in mind, or if I'm aware of that as well.
But I don't see you as flat.
Ah, okay. You don't see me at all. Okay, you don't see me as flat. Okay.
You as flat.
We see you, but we don't see you as flat.
Okay, I understand.
I agree you are flat on the screen, but we don't see you as flat.
We see you resonating. And do you see us resonating with you?
Yeah, I think I do, but it's still kind of, I think my bodily awareness is not there yet. It's kind of starting to, okay, like you just said, it's like learning to drive a car, or learning to kind of use a medium like that, or
I'm very grateful for that, because that's exactly the point. We are not there yet, but we're beginning of learning how this is a skin experience right here. Because also when you described what you were describing, you said, and I found it very interesting, I can feel it right now. And I appreciate that, particularly if someone like you, who's very used to on-site meetings, has a certain sensory that is developed in these on-site meetings, and this is a new space. And the space works slightly different. And it's also very easy to kind of imagine that things are not possible. There are certain things that are not possible. But what we are finding out right now, that maybe much more is possible than one would have imagined. Because our experience of you, it just say that as I experience it, it's not flat. And there is a bodily resonance to being aware of you that is touching the cells of my skin. And this is something that we learn together, how this is a space, although it is kind of strange because we are physically apart thousands of miles. But at the same time, we are together here, whatever that means. And to appreciate that and to learn to play with this is exactly what we try to do in this course.
And to strengthen our trust and sensing capacity.
Right.
And also to test it and work with it. So I'm very grateful that you asked the question, because you start to get a sense like, maybe I'm not so flat after all. and then to test it in relationship. And this is a space in which to do that. So you put out that question, we respond, you say, oh, I'm feeling this. And that's how we develop trust in the fact that this is real. It's actually not that you're over there somewhere. I don't know where you are. You're just pixels on a screen. You aren't. You're breathing. You're nodding. You're present. And most of the deepest wisdom teachings speak about these kinds of things, about consciousness not being separate. about the now, about presence. This is a living example of that in a way that you could say seems to be quite mundane. Here we are in this seminar about Zoom, and yet some deep recognition of connection is part of what's coming, what is coming alive here.
Yeah, I think for me it's kind of, I feel resonance right now. I feel it through my skin. I feel it kind of spacious. But for me, it's kind of more of a question to trust that it is received like that as well, so that there is a bodily response. So it's not just me feeling it. And because when I'm in front of people, I feel they are receiving it. There is a response. I can feel it directly. But through the screen, I'm not used to it yet. You know, I'm still, yeah. So, but thank you. Thank you for that.
I would like to pose a question to you. Do you have any sense, as we are talking right now, do you feel any resonance on the other side?
Or does it run into a wall?
Well, to be very honest, I don't know yet. Yeah, I mean, I could say yes now because there might be something here, but it's certainly different than when I'm with somebody on a physical level. You know, I mean, but you have been talking about it before, so I'm still kind of. I think my body is still learning here. You know, it's kind of really my body learning how to. Yeah, how does this response thing work? You know, through screen. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's more and more.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anna Kaufmann, you raised your hand. Hello.
Thank you. So I actually wanted to comment on the break that you assigned us. And when you first said half-hour break, there was this, oh my God, we're going to miss all this information. We're taking break. And then I started to realize that this break that I was taking with the instructions not to go to your emails, not to take care of other business, how nourishing that was for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm part of the Thomas Hübel field too, so I've been on Zoom calls for years, but now that the rest of my life has moved online, I find myself Zoom meeting, and then in the little breaks in between, I try to do my emails, talk to my husband, you know, do all these, and I'm exhausted. And it was really amazing, you know, I should know that, but it was amazing to me to have that assigned half hour of not doing other things, how it really changed things, and I was able to come back and be present again. And so that's the big takeaway for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to speak more about designing in order to create this kind of field and consciousness. But it's an important lesson. We don't just do the same schedule that we did, or because we're not traveling, we can pile one thing after another. The consciousness and the attention, and particularly because this is new, it takes a lot. And we want to give ourselves space away in order to, as you said, nourish yourself.
Yeah. And the short lesson, at least for me, is because I'm sure we will spend more time online in the future. It will be part of how we meet. But the short lesson is that we also, because of the very reason, we need more time in nature. Out of this very, we have to do that because we have to balance this. And then both can be nourishing, both parts. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Okay. Judy Heidrich. Judy?
Thank you. I didn't have my mic on, sorry. Thank you, and echoing everyone with much gratitude for providing this for all of us. 3 quick points. When we were in our group, I kept feeling, because I do feel things energetically, I kept feeling the closer I got to the computer screen, the more expansive my heart chakra got. And as I pulled back, it's almost like it just narrowed, but it didn't disconnect. It was there, but, and I equated it to like eating a meal, where when we're in there, we're all eating and eating, and it's really fun, and we're sharing, and back here is where I digest. It's not a complete disconnection from the crowd, but you know, after you have something really good and you just kind of sit back and you digest it a little bit, that's what I felt I was doing, going back and forth with that, which was really absolutely lovely. And I always think about in gatherings, when you gather in person, sometimes you have a potluck, or people bring things, and everybody brings a dish that is, it's good and it's delicious and it's something special to them that they bring to share. And then at one point you all share it and then you digest it. That's what that experience felt like for me. And secondly, that I've been doing a lot on Zoom, and there have been moments where it has been energizing and fulfilling, and other times where I get off and I literally go take a nap in between my sessions. And I haven't really known how to figure out what was missing, what needed to be fine-tuned, and already what we've gone over has helped me tremendously to understand that at a different level. And I love working on Zoom. Actually, I like this. I've incorporated music into meditations that I was doing, but that's where I was facilitating. People were listening, and then we all left, you know, at the end of the meditation. But this is where people are coming in and having more dialogue and engaging. And so I'm comfortable with that first part, but I wasn't sure how to do this part with bringing it in with more people. So it's so extremely valuable, and I thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you. Thank you. Andrea. Yeah, we want to make sure that we can we can hear from as many people as possible.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm also extremely grateful for what you're offering and for everybody, what you share. And there are so many things I would love to talk about, but I keep it short. One thing, or one important experience actually for me today was when you made the introduction at the start, and I felt like I'm almost like falling, in a good way, falling into that connection. And it was so easy for me to be attentive and to listen to you and to feel with my body what you were saying, and to being in that resonance. And I found it so amazing, you know, with just you speaking in that present way that you did it. And I thought about one point in time, I was looking at my clock, and I saw that it was almost half an hour gone. And I thought at the online training that I'm doing currently, where they teach us that after 3 or 4 minutes, due to that shortened attention span, you need to activate the people and need a firework of, you use a firework of tools, you know, that are all available as well. And I found it so interesting that I didn't miss anything, you know. And it was so lovely then to get into that flow of silence and meeting people in the small groups, and this awareness of being present. And in this little break that we just had, I was walking my dog I'm based in Wiesbaden, by the way, in Germany. And I was walking my dog, and I felt that this connection, or this combination of my inner stillness and going into the world still in this we space in the world of Wiesbaden, of my city, I could feel that connection with people who were on the street as well, and whom I met, and with this, with a kind of a loving attitude. And an interesting thing that came into my mind when we had that group session, the second one, was that, and I'm sorry that's now only really speaks to Germans, but I try to explain that there's this German word, zugeneigt, and it includes both leaning forward and also having a kind of a loving attitude, if I can say that way. And that was so amazing for me when we had this exercise back and forth, to feel that difference, what it changes when my body changes, how this can change like my inner, like, or the place from where I'm, oh no, that's difficult to say. Well, my inner state of mind or state of attitude. Do you know what I mean?
Very much so.
Yeah. So thank you. That's what I wanted to share. I'm deeply touched and very, very grateful for what you're doing.
Thank you for the word zugeneigt. I know it's only appropriate for the German speakers here, but it's very to the point.
I also wanted to say briefly that what you were speaking about in terms of the beginning, it isn't you were not, none of you were listening passively. You were participating.
Yeah.
And we were inviting you. We were inviting you into a way of being together. And that's part of what it is that we do when we facilitate, that we open the space, and we will all practice this as we go through these 4 days. We open the space and we invite a participation that is not doing a little exercise or whatever, but is at the level of being present, being listening, engaging at it from a depth of who we are.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And we do come to an end of our time here. And I see there are still many hands on. And again, I apologize that we won't have time to call on all of you. But we also would like to let you know that when we come to an end here right now, there will be the possibility that we also reopen our breakout groups, and that you will have three options in fact. You will have the option, if you just have to go, and then we are happy to see you tomorrow again. If you want to stay in this main room and just hang out for whatever time, this room will stay open. You can hang out in the main room, but you also can go back into your breakout groups and see if somebody's there, and hang out there in your small groups, and come back to the main group, to the main room here, as you like. So you have the options to, if you have to leave, to stay here in the main room, to go back into your small group, and just as you do in on-site meetings, hang out a little bit, chat a little bit, talk a little bit, connect a little bit.
Yeah, just so, because most of the times when we're in gatherings, we don't just disappear at the end. And so to give you a chance to kind of connect with each other, and like you would at a conference or a seminar or an event. And also we are very happy and feel honored to be able to give this to you as a gift. And in the spirit of reciprocity, if you are so moved, we do appreciate your donations. So thank you very much, those of you who have donated, and if you can, we deeply appreciate that. So thank you very much. We'll close today. If you have any burning questions, you can also write to us if there's something that you really need to find out by tomorrow, and we'll open up the rooms now so that you can stay, go, hang out here, or do what you like to come to the end of this experience today.
And we hope very much to see you tomorrow again at the same time. Thank you so much for being with us.